Good morning. I'll do a roll call. Please let us know if you're here by saying hello, good morning, or any of those options. If you are online, please let us know that you are present, as I'm not currently able to see everyone who's participating, so please make sure to let us know. Ty Adley, Marshall County. Here. David Armstrong, Windhoek Green. Here. Leslie B, City of South Bend. Brian Klussman, City of Elkhart. Here. Chris Jessup, City of South Bend. Amy Hill, Trenton. Here. Bill Holder, Kosciuszko County. Here. Chris Jamrose, City of Mishawaka. Josh Kaufman, Elkhart County Planning. Here. Sean Pine, Metro County. Here. Patrick and Patrick, I don't know your last name, so I'm going to say it's McCarthy, but I could pronounce it.
Patrick McCarrig, and I'm on the phone.
All right, thanks, Patrick. Marsha McSherry, Kosciuszko County.
Here.
Sky Meadow, Central County. Here. Steve Moriarty, Kosciuszko County.
Here.
Charles McKenzie, Elkhart County. Here. Jason Peters, Marshall County. Lisa Schrader, INDOT report.
Here.
Derek Spears, City of Mishawaka.
Here.
Sean Cerisi, City of Plymouth. Justin Taylor, City of Warsaw.
Here.
And Brent Warren, City of Neffney.
Here.
All right, we have well more than a quarter.
Great, thanks, James. Hopefully everyone had a chance to take a look at the minutes from last month. If there are no questions, comments, or corrections, I would entertain a motion to approve those minutes. So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Minutes are approved. We'll go right into the Secretary's report with the August administrative modifications.
In your packet, you'll receive the August 22 administrative modifications. Modifications are items that this body, as well as the policy board, have given staff authority to make changes to the transportation improvement program. Those changes are usually small, like maybe moving up a fiscal year or moving some funding around. They might be clerical changes. They're basically just minor corrections. These do not need TTAC or policy board approval, as you've already given us the authority to do them. They are listed here for you to review and take a look at. If you have any questions, let us know. These also can be found online for public consumption as well. That would conclude the August administrative modifications report. I'll turn it right over to you.
I'll turn it right back to you for any old business.
There is no business. There is new business. Allison, Reagan will introduce the transportation business.
All right, good morning, everyone. So today's amendment to our transportation improvement program are going to fall under Transportation Resolution 25-22. So just a few things to note before getting started. Most of today's amendments are going to be adding in new projects that were awarded during our call for projects and that were presented to you guys last month. Do note that our Transportation Improvement Program, our TIP, covers fiscal years 22 through 26. So we'll just be adding in phases of these projects that fall within those years. If a phase falls outside of that, we'll be adding it into our TIP, our new TIP that we create next year. Another thing to note is most of the funding increases are going to be found on your modification sheet. One of the definitions of a modification is if funding increases by less than 30% of the entire project. So most of the funding that we are awarded was less than 30% of the entire project. So those will be found there. But we can go ahead and get started with item A. This is Bridge 385 carrying Hively Avenue over the Yellow River in Elkhart County. This is a bridge replacement, and we are adding in preliminary engineering in fiscal year 24 and right-of-way in fiscal year 25 and 26. And then note that construction is in 27, which is outside of the tip, so we won't be adding that now. And then the estimated cost to complete for this project is about $3.3 million. Moving on to item B, we have East College Avenue, what we're calling Phase 3, from Century Drive to the entrance of the planned development to the north of College Avenue. This is an auxiliary lanes, two-way left turn lane project in Goshen, and we are adding in preliminary engineering for fiscal years 23 and 24, with right-of-way and construction falling outside of our current tip. And the estimated cost to complete for this is $7.9 million. Moving on to item C, this is an EV charging infrastructure project in downtown Goshen and downtown Napanee, with Goshen being the primary LPA on this project. This is an EV infrastructure project, and I'll note that downtown Goshen is getting a level 2 charging station and downtown Napanee is getting a level 3. We are programming preliminary engineering and construction into the CHEP now in fiscal years 24 and 26, with a total estimated cost to complete of about $260,000. Moving on to item D, we have the Coal Line Trail, what we're calling Phase 3, from Lincoln Way West to Linden Avenue in the city of South Bend. This is a bike/pedestrian facility, and we are adding in preliminary engineering and construction in fiscal years 24 and 26, and the estimated cost to complete is about $2.7 million. Moving on to another South Bend project, we have item E. This is the Safe Routes to School project at Kennedy Academy. As I mentioned last time, the Safe Routes to School projects are a little different in that the project area around the school is set without assigning specific sidewalks that will be improved. The radius around the school has been set, but the scope will be further determined after funding is awarded. So this is a bike/pedestrian facility, and we are adding in preliminary engineering and constructions in fiscal year 23 and 26, with an estimated cost to complete of about $2.1 million. And then finally, we have item F. This is the Bristol Street widening project from Jeanwood Drive to County Road 15. A couple different things are happening here. So this project was originally a 2 to 5 lane project, and now it is a 2 to 3 lane project. So we're updating the work type on this, changing it to a 2-way left turn lane project. And then in terms of the funding for the right-of-way phase, we are going to be splitting funding between fiscal years 23 and 24 to allow us to award some more funding. And then for construction, we're going to be moving funding from fiscal year 24 to fiscal year 25, anticipating that a letting might need to be moved out on this project. And then between these two phases, we're increasing federal funding by around $2.255 million. And again, as I mentioned, updating the work type to reflect the new scope of the project. And the estimated cost to complete for this project is about $10.4 million. Any questions on any of those items? I will also note that we're in the process of requesting DES numbers for all of these projects. And then once these are endorsed by you all today and approved by our policy board, we will send out official letters noting all of this and outlining the funding that has been awarded. So be on the lookout for those letters. So there are no
questions. We just need a motion to endorse resolution 25-22.
So moved.
Do we have a second? Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Resolution's endorsed.
All right. Next up is 2 transit resolutions for the rural section 5310 program. These are applications that are being submitted by the two entities that we go through to the state for the 5310 grant application. For those not familiar, FTA likes to list their grants by the section where you can find it in US code. It's a very accessible way of referring to their grant programs. If you're not familiar with the 5310 program, this program is for specialized transportation that serves individuals who either have disabilities or who are seniors. And so these two different entities provide specialized transport, and they are applying for, in Resolution 2622, Council on Aging of Elkhart County is applying for one low-floor minivan with a lift that totals about $75,000 with a federal ask of $60,000. And then in Resolution 2722, Marshall Stark Development has requested 4 low-floor minivans with lifts, which would total $300,000 with a federal ask of $240,000, and 2 12-passenger medium transit van vehicles that total $188,000. For those who have paid attention to the 5310 program and maybe the smaller vehicle pricing, you'll note that pricing has gone up exponentially. That is just a trend across the country with all things, but especially with vehicles. And the Marshall Stark development ask might sound like a lot of vehicles, but you also have to remember that 2020, the state qualified purchasing agreement, that QPA, it closed down because the vendor who was providing vehicles under that QPA was not able to source enough vehicles because at the time, I can't remember if it was Chrysler or whoever, stopped supplying chassis that met by America because they could not produce those chassis quick enough to sell additional chassis. So essentially that QPA shut down in 2020, really didn't come back on until, or reopened back up for folks to be able to purchase off of until this last year. So, for example, MACOG just received 6 88 vans. Normally, we would only ever do 2 in a year, so that we're always replacing 2 at a time every year. But because we couldn't buy vans for 3 years, we basically bought 3 years worth of vans all at once. So it's very plausible that that's what's happening here with Marshall Stark application as well. Happy to try and answer any questions related to Resolution 26 and 27. But if there aren't any questions, we would be asking for your approval, and I'll leave it up to the chair, but you can probably do one motion for both resolutions.
So moved. Second.
All those in favor? Any opposed? That resolutions 26 and 27.
Great, I'll turn it over to Caitlin Stevens to do our next resolutions.
Yes, so we have a couple other actions on our agenda items. Resolution 28-22 and 29-22 are related to some discretionary grant opportunities that we've talked about over the past couple months. Currently, we're planning to submit 2 applications for 2 different projects. Resolution 28-22 is related to us submitting funding, or an application for funding for a regional safety action plan through the Safe Streets and Roads for All program. We've talked about this in the past, but we're planning to submit this in order to, one, procure a consultant that might help us kind of put this plan together, as well as kind of expand upon some of our crash data analysis, engagement, and working with all of our local communities to kind of establish projects and recommendations that will come out of the safety action plan. And for Resolution 22, we've been working with the City of Elkhart and Elkhart County related to a rail crossing elimination grant application. Those two communities were awarded local tracts funding in 2018, I believe, for both Hively and Sunnyside grade separations. Since that time, they're quickly approaching a letting, and there's a significant kind of shortfall in funding for those two projects. And so we are planning to submit, be the primary applicant to submit on behalf of the city of Elkhart and Elkhart County to kind of cover the federal funding shortfall that these two projects have in terms of construction. So with that, I can take any questions or be happy to entertain an endorsement for both resolution 28 and 29.
Any questions? If not, do we have a motion?
So moved. Second.
All those in favor? Any opposed? Not 28, 29 are endorsed. Thank you. We'll jump right into the staff updates.
Alrighty, good morning, everyone. I just have a quick update to give about Oakridge Community Development projects. So we received word from Oakridge that the construction grants will be postponed. This is due to a delay in finalizing the grant agreement with HUD. So we still have no clue really when the construction grant will proceed. If you have any questions or concerns about this, please reach out to us and we can either try to answer those or get you into contact with your community liaisons. Planning grants for Q4 will go on as planned because they're still drawing from 2021 funds, but construction grants are postponed for now.
All right, and quick update. This is kind of a summary slide of some of the grant opportunities that are still up and coming. We just wanted to make sure that you're aware of them. We'll keep adding to the list as other opportunities come out. One that we discussed just a while ago is the Rail Crossing Elimination Program, which is due in October. And then there's also a Reconnecting Communities program due in October 13th. Okay, moving on to the next update. Just wanted to continue to remind everyone that asset management plans must be submitted to LTAP before December 1st. So I clarified on that date and it's before the December 1st deadline. Those plans make you eligible for community crossing funds in the following calendar year. So if you need any help with getting those updated, we're here to help. And I guess building up to that, we are currently out Pisa road rating in different cities and towns and are happy to assist if anyone needs help getting their road ratings updated for this plan. So please feel free to reach out with any items related to these two things and hopefully we can help. And then I think our next update, Justin online is gonna give it.
Yeah, just wanted to give a quick update about the Tactical Urbanism Toolbox. The slides, or in the slide, are a couple pictures of two of the projects that we currently have using some of the materials from the toolbox. The one on the left is actually Warsaw and a temporary bike lane that we did with them through downtown using the materials. We also helped them set up an online survey for people to provide feedback on the project. And to date, we have about 250 responses to that. So pretty excited about how well that has turned out. And then the one on the right is actually one of the 3 intersections that South Bend recently did. You can see the red bump outs were added to make the pedestrian crossings a little more safe. So just wanted to, again, kind of give you guys an idea of what can be done with the materials and what we have available. Plymouth is still planning on doing a project yet this year. And then kind of the ultimate reminder is that with the coming winter, it would be a great time to plan for projects next year that you would like to do. So feel free to reach out if you have any questions or would like to put a project together for next year.
Great, thanks, Dustin. And just a reminder for folks that, as Dustin said, thinking through ideas for next year, we have a whole host of materials that we can lend to you that if you're receiving public questions of, hey, could we do this on a neighborhood street, or could we consider this, or you yourself or your staff have had those thoughts of, man, we'd really love to consider a bike lane or a roundabout or bump outs in these locations, but there's lots of questions. This is a very cheap way to experiment, to try it out, to see how it works, to receive feedback, to let the public interact with it, because change is always hard, especially change that you can't envision. So this lets them envision that change. And hopefully that leads to permanent projects. Or it leads to, that's part, right? But you didn't waste, hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars finding out that answer. You have, in a short period of time, 2 weeks, month, figured out temporary materials that can go away after 30 days if it works or doesn't work. So consider that if you haven't already for some of those projects that are either priority or that have just always been in the back of your mind. We have those materials where you can experiment, sandbox, and try it out. So thanks, Dustin.
Some of the growth scenarios that we're talking about. If you want to go to the next slide, Zach. And so just to kind of capture our timeline, over this next month, we're going to roll out some public engagement opportunities. So start planning meetings to attend, events to attend. We'll be having a survey come out, and we'd really appreciate, I guess, your help in kind of pushing that out, as well as if you have opportunities that you think it would be beneficial for us to attend, either via events or meetings. We would be more than happy for that input. We'll also be having some follow-up meetings with maybe some communities that weren't able to attend our meeting. And then ultimately, our plan is to have a final draft of the plan next summer. So we'll be kind of presenting that in the July through September timeframe. And we'll be circling back to conversations with kind of this initial stakeholder group related to needs and priorities at the beginning of next year.
Filling in for Leah today. So next on our list is the South Bend First Friday's electric vehicle display. So just last week in Goshen we had electric vehicle display, which was well attended. So our next one is in South Bend on October 7th. So if you're around, please check us out. You'll be able to see some of the electric vehicles, talk to real owners of those vehicles, and get some good information if you're interested in finding more. Our last update is our Connect Transit plan. So again, you've been familiar with several updates on this. We're just wrapping up that second phase, which was about concepts, developing those concepts for our public transit systems, high ridership focus or coverage focus, and looking towards our vision growth goals as well. So over the summer, we had 500 entries for. We've gone to several public events and pop-ups at community centers to help promote that survey. We also have a lot of engagement through open houses and focus groups. So we got a lot of great public input. All that is coming together this month. We're talking next week at the College Board about those concepts and talk about what kind of preference the board might like to look at in the future. And then later this month, many of you have been engaged in the process would have received an invite to attend another core design retreat. So last time we met all in person, we developed those concepts where we talked about early ridership and those coverage scenarios. And now we're going to talk about what would that potential future design option be for the system. So getting your input and feedback in that process is really important. So we make sure we get it as refined as possible. Once we have that, with some additional analysis from our consultants, we'll be taking that information back out to the public to see how we've got it right. We have a good design concept for the future for us to kind of go on. So that's kind of our next phase of going into this, the end of fall into winter. Time on that, but otherwise I appreciate everyone's help in spreading the word and participation in this process. And we still have a kind of the last critical phase in this process, really get down to this detail. So your participation is really important, and we appreciate it. So that is all. Any questions about Connect?
Thanks, Al. Quick to the floor. Any questions, comments from anyone either here in person or online? If none, then any public comments?
Seeing the public comment, most of our staff will be at a conference that is being hosted by partners in Louisville, KIPTA, the Kentucky, Indiana Planning and Development Agency. And so that's the Indiana MPO conference. It's the first time it'll be in person for 2 or 3 years now. So we really want to show support for our sister agency down in Louisville, as well as historically, it's always been a great opportunity to see what other organizations are working on, best practices, different ideas. It's a great, conference for learning for our staff. So since we will not be here, many of us will not be here, we're going to cancel the October 5th meeting. That means our next meeting will be held on November 2nd. And that meeting, I know we've been traveling around. Thanks to Brent, we were in Anthony, and Josh, thanks for having us here in Goshen. In November, we will be hosted by the city of South Bend in the County City Building on the 13th floor. And then just to confuse you, in December, we'll be hosted by the county on the 4th floor. So November 15th, November 2nd, we'll be on the 13th floor, okay? For next year, if you are interested in hosting a TTAC, we will be traveling around again next year, presumably. And so we'll start to line those up as we approach the end of the year. We'll start to think through next calendar year in those locations where we'll host TTAC. So just keep that in the back of your mind if you have suggestions. Other than that, that's all I have. So I apologize.
I did want to also mention, next TTAC quarterly tracking would have been after that. So we're thinking we're going to push that back the week after, but you'll be getting an email soon about a set date on when quarterly tracking will be. Still within that month, just probably a week later.
Thank you. Anything else?
The Goshen folks, the beautiful park. I was annoyed when my map app took me in a neighborhood on the other side of the river, but I got to watch the trail again.
All right, if not, it could be a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thanks, everyone.
Great job.
Yeah, for you.
That was just a little.